a couple of slides on investing in black banks. So the rationale that you've heard from the congressman and from others is absolutely correct. When you look at the decline in economic activity, I'm an economist, by the way, trained at the University of Chicago. When you look at the decline in economic activity in black communities, it is all tied to the missing black banks. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about capital in black banks. We looked at some data that reviewed how much capital banks had raised from 2004 to 2016. In total, all banks, $585 billion in capital over that time period. Only $55 million of that, 55 million, was raised by an African-American owned bank. So here are the numbers. As you can see, 2004, 33.8 billion. And then, of course, you get to 2009, and the bottom falls out during the financial crisis. Still hasn't recovered. But the pattern is significant, and the numbers are significant. Here's the listing, and this is an important slide. I'm taking you back to class. If you want to take notes, now is the time to do so. The reason I put this up, these are some of the top groups that raised money from 2004 to 2015. Note that American International Group is at the top of the list, $34 billion. Now, look at that bailout funding box. AIG got $67 billion in bailout financing from the U.S. government. They raised $34 billion on their own. They got $67 billion from the federal government. And they're not alone. Bank of America, the next one, they raised $27.5 billion on their own, and then they got $45 billion from the federal government of your money. Okay? So when people tell you that the federal government doesn't have a role to play in financing black banks, refer them to this slide. When the intention is there, the federal government will step up and finance their institutions. They won't finance your institution because Citigroup also, $18 billion on their own, $45 billion in federal funding. So that's just a quick analysis of capital raising. Okay? In terms of the types, common stock, senior notes, let's take a look at that fourth item there. FDIC TLGP. What are those? That's a temporary liquidity guarantee program that was created by the FDIC during the financial crisis. The total there was $16 billion. $16 billion in federal funding. The numbers are compelling with respect to the economic potential of black people. This just shows black buying power, projected to grow to $1.4 trillion by 2020. All right, here's the deal with this. Everybody says, oh, $1 trillion, oh, that's a lot of money. No, it's down by half. That number should be twice as high as it is. So don't get all excited about $1.4 trillion. $1.4 trillion by 2020. Yes, good number. Great. Glad to have it. Should be 2.8. All right. Now, let me get to this. So, in terms of the numbers, the number of black banks, what I do is I do research on minority-owned financial institutions. And I have been doing that since 1991. I own and manage a website called minoritybank.com and creativeinvest.com, as well as minorityfinance.com. Okay? So we've been tracking this sector for some time. This shows the decline in the number of black banks from 1994 to 2015, going from 55 to 24. It was never that high to begin with. All right? That's got a bottom line. If 55, I mean, out of the total number of banks that you had then, even that was very, very small. But moving from 55 to 24 is crazy. Okay? It means you basically are being wiped out of that sector. Wiped out of that sector. There'll be no more black banks very, very soon. By 2024, 2028, whatever, pick a number. You know, with this trend line, the economic analysis is clear with respect to where it's going. Okay? So, Chief Lee had mentioned this, so I want to show this slide real quickly. A little hard to see, but this shows the number of black banks by state, 1994 to 2015. If the larger blue bar there, 6, represents Chicago. So there were 6 black banks in Chicago in 1994. There are basically 2 now. And you have to, in part, because of the $9 million investment that Chiefly made in one of the remaining black banks in Chicago. Okay, so when people come to you and they talk to you about how bad off the black communities are, how there's so much violence there, yes, I agree. It's because of this. In part, it's because of this. When my father graduated from Howard University, he was an architect. The first place he went was to Industrial Bank of Washington, that little branch that they have down there at 14th and U. You know, because that's where all of the guys who graduated from Howard, who were dentists or doctors or architects, that's where they would go to get a loan to start their practice. All right, couldn't go to Riggs. Riggs wasn't going to give you that loan, you know. But Industrial had that marketplace. We know that that's gone away. So, in terms of this, by the way, is the list of the remaining black banks. By the way, we're doing a webinar on Tuesday on investing in black banks. It's a limited invitation only webinar, limited to 25 people. Chiefly has agreed to come online and talk a little bit about his investment, and here it is. Group Ndum and their investment of $9 million in Illinois Service Federal Savings and Loan. So, this was one chart that we had. We said there were going to be 7 banks by 2028. We now think that number will be 0. Okay. Now,
say 0.
0, none. Here's what's going to happen with you. And correctly identifying the economic potential of the black community means that when he is successful, his bank will become a target for acquisition by white-owned banks. Right? So I'm just saying, I'm just a numbers guy. Don't get mad at me. I'm just a numbers guy. All right, I'll keep this going. Now, in terms of solutions, what are some of the solutions? All right. What we say is, there's a program called the New Market Tax Credit Program, which gives a 40% return, top-line return on your investment. You invest $100 in a building. The federal government, over 7 years, gives you $40. The Office of Minority and Women Inclusion, Section 342 out of Dodd-Frank, which could be used to energize participation. What I also say is that you need to look at creating innovative credit products, some credit products that attack the payday lenders. Okay, using technology. And then new small business lending products like crowdfunding and culturally appropriate financial literacy efforts. Here's my thinking on financial literacy. It is a waste of time. All right? The banks will always innovate and cheat you out of your money. They have a lot more money to do that. They hire the best people. I went to University of Chicago, you know, tried to hire me, you know. They will always innovate in a way that gives them an advantage and puts you at a disadvantage. The only way around that is strong laws. People have to go to jail. Wells Fargo. I'm not even going to get into it. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. They're opening up accounts. They fire 5,000 people. I mean, and you know who that affects. You know who that affects. That affects us. Okay? So I'm just saying that the only real protection in this type of fast-moving, innovative financial marketplace is a strong regulatory and a strong legal system to basically protect it. And again, others will talk about crowdfunding. I've written 2 books on crowdfunding. There are a bunch of articles that have come out about black banks, about the black banking movement, and all of that, which I'm a strong supporter of. But in order for that to be successful, you have to know the environment in which we are operating. It's moving very, very fast, and it's very difficult to keep the momentum going.